Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another edition of the VOC Matric Revision online program presented on YouTube and Facebook. My name is Muhammad Fasih Peterson. This is our final session for 2021. We've gone through various papers, and our thanks once again goes out to all of our tutors who have participated in the series, and just been have been a valuable resource to students thus far. Today we'll be focusing on languages once again, and we'll be combining the Afrikaans and English paper 3s, and that's because the structure of the papers, as I understand, are quite similar. Today we are once again joined for languages by Muslima Ismail and Muslima. Assalamu alaikum and welcome. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I'm very well, alhamdulillah. And yourself, Fasih?
Alhamdulillah, I am fantastic. I love language. I'm a huge fan of the English language, and a little bit of a fan of Afrikaans. It's kind of, in a sense, my home language, but I don't speak it as well as I write it for some weird reason. But yeah, I'm a fan of language. So I'm always, fascinated by the structure of language, writing, creative writing. And so looking forward to this session, paper 3. And I believe that we'll be doing a little bit of a snapshot of the paper. Before we get started with the PowerPoint, what exactly are we focusing on in both those papers? And just again remind us why we decided to combine these two into one session, English paper 3 and Afrikaans paper 3.
Okay, so the paper 3 component addresses at least 40% of the entire syllabus for the matric year. The reason for this is because most of your life is spent writing. Whether you're going to go into a business environment, whether you go into news, whatever, scientific, whatever you go into, you're going to be spending that writing. So this focuses on not only creative writing, but the ability to articulate your feelings and to express yourself through words. So the reason that this is so important is because it's one of the aspects, including language and comprehension, that you use the most practically. So you need the most practice in it. You won't become proficient in writing if you do not write. So the reason why it was put together is because the structures and whatever is included in the spectrum of the paper 3 for Afrikaans and English, it's the same. So it might be on a language-wise, it might be on an easier level in Afrikaans, and on a bit of a higher level in English, if you are doing home language. So the home language will always be on a higher level than the first additional language. So Afrikaans in this sense will be on a lower level, language-wise, and also in the style of your writing. And you will get more merit based on, even if you use simple words, but you're able to express something in a good manner.
Fantastic. So I'll leave it to you to proceed with today's lesson. And that, of course, is we're starting with, I believe, English, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I'll hand it over to you. Let me just put our presentation up there, and then I will take a back seat and you can proceed. So yeah, we're starting off with English home language, and I believe we're on slide 17 there. So yes. Okay, yeah, English and Afrikaans home language. So I'm going to hand over to you. فايتفضل مشكورا.
Okay. So once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to everyone watching. We will start today with English as well as Afrikaans. Just a bit of just something before we actually get into it is that often students do not believe in studying for paper 3, when in actual fact that paper that majority of students, approximately like 80 to 90% of students, don't study for is the one that contributes most to your final mark. So you doing well in this paper can actually determine whether you pass or not, or whether you pass with a good mark or an average mark. So with regards to this paper is practice in your in your speech practicing, in short text that you do. You can even send WhatsApps in a certain format. You can practice sending emails. Since we're still using emails, technology hasn't advanced that much yet. We still use emails. You can practice all those different types of things. And even with your friends on WhatsApp, send them a letter on WhatsApp instead of, in the message format. So with those types of things, try to incorporate what you learn into your lifestyle so that you can have an educationally influenced lifestyle. And in that way, you'll also continue learning and continue practicing what you learn so that it's not as if you are memorizing and then you're writing it for that time and then you forget it afterwards, and you're in a workplace environment and then you need to relearn everything again. So moving on to the next slide, is the discussion of the composition of the two papers. So starting with paper 3 for English home language will be two sections. So you will have an essay and you will have transactional writing. So transactional writing will be also longer text, but it's not as long as an essay. So an essay can be approximately 500 words or even less than that, maybe 300 to 500 words. But then transactional writing will be much less, will be 300 or less. And that section assess whether you are able to format certain types of writing, whether you can do reports, whether you can do news articles, emails, letters, things like that. And then moving on to the Afrikaans section, which is Vraestel 3. So we have opstellen, which is seen as langer than transactionele teksten. So these are like essays, but we use much more topic based, and it's certain settings, and it's much more specified in Afrikaans because it's a eerste additionele taal. It's as if you have to use a varied amount of vocab in order to show that you are actually reading. You're not just staying on the baseline with regards to your language. And then the second part is langer en korter transactionele teksten. So that would be the same as the section B for English, which would be letters, reports, etc. You also get dialogue, so that's dialogues in English. So it's exactly the same. It's just that the Afrikaans is much shorter because with an additional language, often your vocab is much more limited. So where you will explain the garden is bright green and it's colorful with lilac and all of these colors, then you'll write it in Afrikaans and you will say die gras is groen, for example. So in this way, it's just to assess that you understand and you are actually able to write something. So then to the next slide, we actually start with something. So this is kind of an maybe a short activity that you can try to do in order to practice for paper 3. Before you actually write, the most important part or the most important thing about writing and creative writing is that you need to practice with your imagination. So I know myself, for example, I can be very logical at times. So I don't really use my imagination, especially when it comes to certain types of jokes. I don't find it funny because I'm so logical. So then people call you boring if you're logical sometimes. But just an activity that you can practice is you choose a category that you like. So it can be any topic. So For example, you like sports. Then within sports, you have a favorite soccer team. I won't mention a team in case people, sometimes um, we get offended and very passionate when it comes to soccer teams and rugby and so on. So you choose your favorite soccer team and you choose your favorite player. So a scenario is that there is this game that you really wanted to go to, and you got like a 75% discount to go to the game in England or something like that. But the deadline for booking the tickets was 10 o'clock, and it's now 10 past 10 in the morning. And you can write a letter or DM, in that case, or just say a letter because of the context that we are in now. You write a letter to your favorite player and you explain why you feel that you deserve to get this ticket, why you feel that you need the opportunity to still, even though you missed the deadline, and then you really, really want to attend because you've been following him for so many years, and you love soccer so much. You play after school, you're part of a club, you go to extra games on weekends, you do all of these extra things because you love soccer that much. So think of a scenario like that. Think of topics like that. Then you write a letter. Then you say why this is so important to you, and you use descriptive words because adjectives attract people. If I'm going to say that, if I'm going to tell someone, you know, you look nice today, then that will be okay. But if I tell them, you know, I like the glistening of your eyes when you put this type of makeup on. It makes you look so enchanting, for example. They'll feel much better than you just telling them, you look nice today. So use your adjectives. And when you read and you don't understand or you don't really use adjectives, you can maybe highlight them and keep them for safekeeping for next time, right? And then, so now we're going to move on to the next slide where we actually discuss what we do. So in section B, so what I did with the previous activity that focuses on how the first section is coordinated. So that will be a lot about where they give you a topic or they give you a picture and you have to write something about it. So if you practice with your imagination and you come up with scenarios and you get any picture, you can connect that scenario with that picture, right? And then now when we go to the second section, and this is in the English paper, when we go to the second section, we have different types of writing. So we have emails. So an email follows a specific format, right? Nowadays it's less formal compared to what it used to be, but nevertheless, it's still an email and how to structure it. Then we also have informal and business letters or also reports. So the difference between the two is informal is when you're writing a letter to your pen pal or you're writing a letter to, your family in another country and so on. These are what informal letters are. In comparison to business letters. So these are, for example, also if you have to do a cover page or cover letter for your CV. So these are more professional and it goes to specific people. And in the case where you do not know who exactly it's going to, there's also a way to address that. And then we also have dialogues and how you need to use you need to use, full stops and commas and, all those punctuation marks play a role in dialogues and also keeping spaces between it. Then we have obituaries. So that is for, the death of someone. Agenda and minutes is one of the most important things actually to know in matric. Sometimes it's overlooked, but it is quite important to know that, because often when you when you start working and perhaps you do administrative jobs, or you are a secretary, or you even go to university and you're part of a club or a committee, and you the secretary, you need to know how to do agenda and minutes, and you need to be able to format everything accordingly, and be able to take notes efficiently as well, and put the most important information in there. So that is quite important with regards to format as well. Then we also have the speeches and reports. So attached to speeches is also the way that you conduct yourself, the way that your composure, posture also plays a role in there, your projection. But this focuses on the writing aspect of it, and doing that well in order for you to actually be able to give that message across with alongside your composure as well. And then reports also, since you will have to report back to people sometimes. Then interviews and articles. So interviews are also important when you are going to university, because in research at times you won't find a book or article or a journal that has the information that you need. So you will conduct your own interviews, and then from there you will actually have to transcribe that. So you listen to the interview and you type it up. So you need to know, okay, what's the format also that this follows? How do I conduct a proper interview, and how do I actually document it, right? So now we move on. On the next slide, we discuss how to construct these properly. So for in English first, there's some tips and tricks in English and Afrikaans. So I'll do the English first, and then we'll move on to Afrikaans. But all of them apply to English and Afrikaans. Right. So the most important thing this will apply to essay writing, transactional writing, langer transactionele tekste, korte transactionele tekste, whatever it is you're writing, this is important, and it is the W's. So it is who, what, when, where, why, and how. So it won't, all six of them won't be relevant in every situation, but always keep them in mind. So where it is relevant, you use the ones that are relevant, right? So when you're writing, for example, a speech, right? So you think of who is your audience, who are you reporting to, right? Then it is what are you addressing, what are you speaking about? If it's an article, a news report, what message do you want to get across? The important aspects, like when did it happen, right? And then also the setting of the place, which is where, the reason that it occurred, and then how at the end is, I put in capital letters, because when we are doing writing, we will use a lot of adjectives. So how is important in everything, because in order to be descriptive, you need to use adjectives, and you need to use adjectives that will appeal to people, especially when you are doing creative writing. You need to be creative in the way that you use your words to show that you have range in language. It's almost as if you're singing, and you're auditioning for something, whatever it may be. You are singing, so you do different notes to show your range. So with language, you use adjectives in creative writing to show your range. And you also order it in a specific way to show that as well. And then the next point is also a focus on the 3 R's. So this is also connected to who and what. So the three R's are the reader, the reason, and the response. Because we're focusing on what is written, you think of who is going to read this, whatever it is that you're writing. Who is it intended for? That will determine who your reader is. And whoever your reader is, the writing needs to be appealing to them, because you can't write something formal to a 10-year-old child. They will not understand what you are saying, and it wouldn't make sense. And also, the reason for you sending the letter, for your speech, for the interview, for whatever it is that you are writing the letter, um, the reason has to be there. It's not like we have a conversation, we meet each other in the road. Okay, I met you, I met up with you in the road now, and we spoke for a half an hour, but I actually forgot that I was supposed to tell you this. We don't do that in writing. We actually we actually give the reason for why we are writing this letter or this report. We don't, kind of go around the point. And then also the response. So the response is also very important in thinking, you know who it's addressed to, you know why it's addressed to, and you need to know how it will be, returned in that way. And key points with regards to the three R's is the difference in it being formal and informal. So that's the key difference here. So for example, in a letter, in emails sometimes as well, in more formal settings, you will say dear sir or dear madam, and you can either use their name if you're on a first name basis, but you can also use their surname. And then in another case where you don't know who it is supposed to be addressed to at all, you just say to whom it may concern. And the whom in there is an indication that you do not know who the person is that this email or this letter is going to. So that is actually a keyword in there that some people might not know. If you say whom, it means that you are unaware of who that is for. Then another one is time management. So in paper 3, this is where us as students, I'm included in that in that bracket, is where we can sometimes run into problems because we get carried away with the writing and I have so many ideas, and then an hour has passed and I only wrote like 50 words down. So with regards to this, you calculate the amount of marks that you need for something. So you work out the mark allocation and you work how much time that you have. But this will also depend on your writing speed, and also how much you have been practicing your mind with imagination and ideas. So if you have not been practicing with imagination, you can actually struggle. And that is why it's important to practice the activity that I made mention of earlier on, because when you practice, you make your brain sometimes engage in that way. And when you engage in that manner and it has enough practice, it won't be difficult when you have to return to it, because then ideas will just come like that. As opposed to you never thinking out of the box, you never, just sitting and trying to think of, certain topics and going into detail, into extreme detail with it, and using all of these, descriptions and so on. Uh, when you do that, it will make it easier for you. So always at the beginning, that's the first thing that you do. Work out your time. They do call out the time, if I'm not mistaken. Just make sure that you are always paying attention to that and you don't get too sucked in to to your creative senses. And then the Afrikaans. So this also applies to English. What I've previously mentioned applies to Afrikaans as well, and what I will speak about in Afrikaans will apply to the English as well. So vir wenke, nommer 1 is skakel elke paragraaf aan die vorige een. So that is in English, they call it a linking sentence. So that is when you have when you end off your paragraph, it needs to almost introduce you to the next topic. So we have an introduction. It introduces us to the entire essay, the entire article, the entire book, whatever it may be. But when we have a paragraph but we want to go to a slightly different topic, we need to somehow connect the two. So that skakeling is very important, because if I'm going to speak about dogs exclusively and then just switch over to cats, it's going to be a bit confusing, because what are you on? So you have a linking sentence where you maybe speak about pets and the different types of pets you have, and then you go from dogs to cats in that way. So that's very important, so that there can be flow in your writing. Then number 2 is redigering. So redigering is editing. Redigering is editing. That is important, because if you write something, you are in a certain mindset. Your mind is just stuck there. And if you are locked in that, you don't see things from a varied amount of perspectives. So when you do editing, you are now done with your work, and you try to clear your head, and then you read over it with a different headspace, right? Just so that you can be able to identify whether you made spelling mistakes, whether you made, certain errors, and also with regards to redigering, always write finale poging or final draft at the beginning of your final written piece. So after redigering, after editing, you have your final piece, and then you write there, that's your final thing, and then you draw maybe like draw a line, or you say that it's your rough draft above whatever is your rough draft, so that they don't mark it. And you don't get, lower marks just because of a simple mistake like that, right? And then number 3 is ontkenning. So ontkenning in Afrikaans is nie. Byvoorbeeld, ek het nie die deur gesluit nie. So it is actually a very common mistake, especially in writing, that students sometimes overlook. So I will say, ek het nie die deur gesluit when I write. But when I speak and I'm going to tell someone, ek het nie die deur gesluit, and they're going to look at you and be like, okay, so like finish. So so that is why it's important to check that those types of things, it's always there. And always just remember, ontkenning has 2 ends. The one end is for nie at the beginning, and the second end is for nie at the end. So ontkenning, like that. So the 2 ends for the 2 nie. And then included in that is punctuatie, commas. Commas voor, maar en want. So, my apologies, that's actually a spelling mistake, language. That's supposed to be a V there, not the W, not voor. Commas voor, maar en want. So this happens because when you use maar en want, it is because you are giving substantiation, right? So when you do substantiations, you do ek het ek het nie gekom nie, maar ek wou daar gewees het. So before that maar, you have a comma because you pause because you're giving substantiation a reason, right? A rede. And then also with want, ek het die venster toegemaak, want dit het gereën, or something like that. So before that, you give the comma prior to that, and you do you put in those words. You put the comma because of substantiation, verrede. And then just one last thing also is a very important part of all of this is to practice. The only way to excel is through practice. And the only way that people become good writers and people become proficient in language and people get to the point where they actually understand is by practicing. And in the order that the papers are, paper 1, paper 2, and then paper 3, that is also sort of the order that you need to learn it. So you need to first be able to comprehend to be able to respond, right? So you do you practice comprehension in paper 1 so that you can understand what these short articles and clips and texts are saying, so that you move on to books. So when you move on to novels and you move on to poetry and you move on to books, you have this deeper sense of comprehension, where you can actually almost put yourself in the shoes of those people and you can almost enact that story. So that's why you have a roman in drama and novels, as well, plays in English and in Afrikaans as well, because you have a deep sense of comprehending these feelings and understanding of what the author and the writer is trying to get through to the reader, that you're able to enact it in a particular way. And then when you come to paper 3, that is not only doing it practically, but you're also able to write it down. So now you've already comprehended things to a certain level, but now you're expressing what you understand and how you feel, and you are expressing what you think about something, you're expressing your opinion. So this is a paper of expression, and expression through words and through language. So that is the last of what I have been doing in the last 3 sessions, and I hope that it was very helpful. If there are any emails, please don't send me blank emails, because I'm not sure I'm not sure what is meant by blank email. Tuition is in the subject line, but you can actually send me a message in the email so that I can know what exactly it is that you want. I have responded to some emails that I have gotten, but with regards to blank emails, I don't understand what blank emails mean. So please just type out a message so that I can understand exactly what you want and if you need help with anything in the future, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Shukran so much, Muslima. And once again, if you would like to get in touch with Muslima Ismail, you can email her on ismailmuslima@gmail.com. I'll just put it up there once again. That is the email address if you want to get hold of her. It's ismailmuslima@gmail.com, and put in the subject line tuition or whatever it is. Don't send blank emails because all it does is confuse. So please don't send blank emails. Masima, I want to say a big shukran to you, and shukran for taking out your time. I know that you're a very busy person, and it's been quite a challenge, I think, to set up these sessions for most of our tutors, because they're taking time out of their day, a very busy day, to spend an hour going through a topic. And I think we're very grateful from us at Voice of the Cape, myself, and just the broader public and all of those who have benefited, and for those people who have shared the videos as well, we want to say a big shukran to them as well. Masima, all the best, stay safe, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Shukran, alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
And from myself, Muhammad Fasik Peterson, till I speak again, inshallah, I bid you assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To be advised, these sessions do stay up on YouTube and Facebook, so you can go back and reference them. And also, please do share them and like and subscribe to the pages.